Business on Purpose podcast, episode number 75. Excited to have you in. We are here to help liberate small business owners just like you from the chaos of working in their business so that you can get your life back. Hey, welcome into episode 75. This is a monologue episode, and it came out of a client engagement that I had just this last week where we sat down. There's been so much talk about culture lately, and it's really hard to identify exactly what it is. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time, did some research, went back, and was able to boil down the elements of culture into three primary things because I think it would be helpful for you as small business owners and organizational leaders to understand what culture is. Because recently I sat down with a very, very successful business guy, and he said by far the number one most important thing you need in your business is culture. And I thought, interesting, but what in the world is culture? So I spent a few minutes here talking about culture. Hey, before you dive in, head on over to mybusinessonpurpose.com. If you need accountability and insight, we are just now launching a brand new Business on Purpose Mastermind group. So you want to make sure to check that out and let us know if you might be interested in that. If you're interested in being held accountable and also being motivated and coached through what you're trying to work through as a small business owner or an organizational leader, let us know. I'd love to be able to help you out with that. mybusinessonpurpose.com. Now, here's my little insight into what it means to have great culture in your business. So as we talk about culture, one of the most important things that I've seen, I was sitting down with a business owner about a month and a half ago, and we were talking about, and this guy has grown a significant business. He's taken a fast food business, and he's grown it from zero, and he grew it to about 500 stores before he sold it and did very, very well. And now he's been in a few other businesses as well, but this particular business that he's in now is more of a money holding business. And as we were talking about some of the issues that we were bringing up in our discussion, one of the questions he asked me was, hey, what is it that you do? So I started telling him about how we liberate small business owners from the chaos of working in their business, and we do it in a very specific kind of step-by-step approach, starting with the vision, articulation, the mission, and the unique core values. And as we got to talking, and he said, I didn't hear you mention the word culture. And I said, well, it's actually a subset of vision, and what we talk about, it's one of the 7 categories we talk about within vision. And he said, all right, well, let me tell you from my perspective what I see culture as. And so we started talking about the value of culture and essentially laid down that culture is kind of everything as it relates to the business. And so when I left that lunch, we talked about culture, but we didn't talk a lot about the details of the nuts and bolts of culture. And so over the last few weeks, I've really been trying to work through what are the nuts and the bolts of culture. And so here's what we've landed on. As we thought about this last week, it was so interesting. We actually looked up the definition of culture. There are a couple of different definitions of culture, but one was more of a biological focus of a definition of culture, and it was really interesting to see the biology term of culture as it relates to the other terms of culture. And I was actually with a medical staff about 3 weeks ago, and there was a lab, somebody who ran the lab was in this meeting that we were in, and we were talking about this word culture, and she really had a unique perspective on the term culture because of the work that she does in a lab. You know, they deal a lot with cultures and bacteria and those sorts of things. And so it got me to thinking, as I looked up this definition of the word culture from a biological perspective, there were 3 elements that we saw that made up this term of culture. The first was to have a life form of some type. The second is an artificial environment, and the third are nutrients. And so if you've got those 3 elements, what you have is you have the opportunity for culture to be able to grow. You have to have a life form, you have to have an artificial environment, and you have to have nutrients of some kind. So I want you to think about this, and let's put this in the metaphor of business. So if we've got a life form, if we've got an artificial environment, if we've got nutrients, the life form is the employee, the person, the owner, the human being. The artificial environment is the business, and the nutrient is whatever you feed the artificial environment to see the life form grow. All right, so let's take that again. The life form's the owner, the employee, could even be the customer. The artificial environment is the business setup, whatever that is. Either it's an on-site business, a virtual business, whatever it might be. Then you've got the nutrients that then plug into the artificial environment to grow the life form. So if you want bacteria to grow, then you need to feed the nutrients in the artificial environment for bacteria to grow. If you want a human being to grow, then you need to feed the artificial environment with the nutrients in order for that human being to grow. Whatever it is that you want to grow, that's the nutrient that you have to put into the artificial environment in order for that life form to grow. So we've got three elements that make up culture: the life form, the artificial environment, and the nutrient. So my question to us is, what are the nutrients that we're plugging into the artificial life form, or to the artificial environment, so the life form can grow? Do you want healthy employees? Well, then you're going to have healthy nutrient to go into those employees. Do you want corrupt employees? Well, if you do, I don't, but if you do, you're going to have to plug in corrupt nutrient into the artificial life form of your business in order to have that grow out of the back end. Hey, do you want employees who are going to micromanage other people? Well, if you don't want that, then you've got to be careful not to micromanage, not to plug that nutrient of micromanagement into the artificial environment so that micromanaging team members come out on the other end. You know, a lot of time with our kids, we go, my goodness, why do they act that way? Well, a lot of time it's the nutrient that we're putting into this artificial environment of the home so that these little life forms, our kids, end up growing. And so they get the same good habits or they get the same bad habits that we have. So it really does make sense when you look at the biological definition of the word culture. It takes three elements: life form, artificial environment, and then the nutrients. So the question is, and if you look at it from a Bible perspective, the nutrients are that what they call the fruits of the Spirit: love and joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. If those are the items that you want embedded into, if those are the items that you want the life forms, your employees, your customers to have, well, then those are the nutrients that you're going to have to feed the artificial environment of your business. Let's take it down to the home. If we want our kids to exemplify those things, those are the nutrients that we're going to have to embed into the artificial environment of the home that we're building ourselves. So the ultimate question for us is, what do we want the culture to be? Well, if we boil that down, we really have to go back to the nutrients that we're ingesting into that, right? And so if we want the love and the joy and the peace and all of those sorts of things to come out, or if we want productivity, efficiency, thoughtfulness, kindness, joy, smiling, all of those things to come out through our team members, maybe even through our business, then we've got to inject that nutrients into the artificial environment of our business. If we want hatred, spite, malice, frustration, anger, if we want those things to come out through the life forms within our business, team members, employees, etc. I just got off of a plane last night, so I saw plenty of that. If we want those things coming out the other end, then those are the things that you've got to feed into the artificial environment. So if you want malice and anger to come out through your team, well, then feed the artificial environment with malice and anger. Now, hopefully you don't want that. Hopefully you want joy and excitement and thrill and efficiency and those sorts of things, where you're going to have to feed that in as a nutrient into the artificial environment in order for that to come out. So 3 elements that make up culture. Number 1, life form. Second, artificial environment. Third, nutrients. The life form are you, your team members, your customers, your vendors. Your artificial environment is the business that you've built. And then, of course, the nutrient is whatever you want to invest into the artificial environment so that what comes out on the other end is genuinely a culture that you can be proud of. So there you go. Implement that. I hope that provides you some insight. Your next team meeting, and I hope it's this week. I hope you're implementing team meetings on a regular basis. If you're not, we can help you with that. We have got an entire team meeting philosophy, so let us know. Reach out to us if we can provide that for you. Because that is the one diagnostic that I'm starting to ask people about more and more about their business is their team meetings, the health of their team meetings. You're like, oh, I hate team meetings. No, you hate bad team meetings. Great team meetings push a business forward. So at your next team meeting, you can talk about this idea of culture. Take 3 or 4 minutes. It will be well worth your time. I promise it. To be able to talk about this with your team and genuinely ask, where are we at as it relates to culture within our business? Go check us out, mybusinessonpurpose.com. We are here to liberate you from the chaos of working in your business to help you get your life back. And we're going to do that again on the next podcast right here on the Business on Purpose podcast.